In this lesson, what I want to show you is a better topologized arm. This is more acute to what you will find in a current generation video game. This is a low poly material, so in here I have just a single arm, and it's not the complete arm. Half of the arm is cut down here, and the elbow is going to be in this position. So as you can see, the origin of the arm is all the way down here, so the rotation and pivot point is down here. Doesn't really matter because what is going to be driving this animation is going to be the skeleton. So that said, if I take a look at the geometry, I'm going to be adding a new layer for the arm so I can hide the specific skeleton, and I only have the arm, right? So not everything in here is made out of quads. In some cases, over here I'm gonna have a weird arrangement of triangles. And the thing about this though is that even though this is not really giving me anything on the geometry side, I mean, I could add just a single cut going all the way horizontally. That would increment my poly count, and the only thing is I want this to be here because this is going to be the elbow. So my elbow is going to be located over here. My thumb and the rest of the fingers are going to be on this side. And as you can see over here, whenever I'm going from a quad onto subdividing in a larger resolution, I need to increment that resolution with this triangle count. Interestingly, I can actually just continue the line all the way down to the end, but if I do that, then that is going to be doubling the amount of triangles that I'm going to have on this area. And at the end of the day, whenever I send this to a graphics card, it is going to look something like this. Mesh triangulate. So everything is going to be triangulated anyways. There is really no point or there's no issue on just having some triangles laying around. But again, it is kind of harder to model whenever you have everything made out of triangles, because my selections are not going to go all the way as you would expect. So this around, I can make a loop selection. Well, if I have the whole thing triangulated, mesh triangulate, then I cannot do a selection, right? I cannot just say, hey, continue doing this loop all the way around, because that is not how it's gonna work. All right, now that out of the way, there are a couple of places in which I want to increment my resolution, because there are gonna be some points. Here in this area, for instance, this is where I wanna have my fingers to bend. This here on the tip is really just giving me something to have a little bit more roundness feeling onto it. But other than that, all of the triangles are here for a reason, whether it be for having a smoother transition between one quad to or two power pairs of quads to another, or for having some resolution so I can bend, like in the case of my elbow. My skeleton, and I'm going to get rid of these guys, doesn't really look any different than what I had before. It's just a little bit more complex. So I'm gonna hide the arm for a second, and I'm going to focus on my skeleton. One thing you'll notice is that it is not a straight line. It's usually better and preferred that you don't have a straight line on your articulations, because Maya is going to have some issue trying to discern what is the rotation angle that you want. Once you have introduced these here, that is going to help you out a lot by discerning where is the bend supposed to happen. So most of the time what you're gonna have is really just a point that is articulated. Also, you will notice that the joint is closer to where it's supposed to bend than right at the center of the scene. That is going to be helping it a lot whenever it comes to in terms of the formation. So let's just explore the two methods that we have explored or seen earlier. So if I go here from modeling to rigging, and I go to my bind skin options, I'm just going to reset these to the default settings. I'm gonna keep the number of influences to something like 4, and I wanna remove the unused influences, just so I have a better approximation on what I'm going to be doing in a second with the geodesic voxeling. So I'm gonna hit bind skin. Again, I have to select the mesh and the skeleton, so I'm gonna say bind skin now. It did a super quick job, and it seemed that it worked as reasonably as I would expect. If I move this one, all of the vertices are gonna move. That's expected. If I got this one and move it around, the bending here, the losing of volume, it's pretty clear. There that seems painful. Just by bending the arm, that feels like a terrible job. So I will need to start painting the influences as I show you in previous videos. Also, if I select this thing and move it down, you will notice that I'm moving some parts over here that has no business doing whenever I move my wrist. You also need to consider that this is an unnatural wrist movement. There is no way I can position my wrist like that in the real life, at least not without having something broken. But the real trouble is going to come all the way down here in the front when I have a bend on this. Do you see that? I am actually taking geometry from a different finger than the one that I'm moving. And you can see that with this one. If I move it around, this is going to be affecting this geometry down here. And that is just because the way that this geometry is constructed and the way that this algorithm work. Let me go back to my bind pose. I just need to say skin, go to bind pose. See, these vertices down here are closer to this vertex or to this joint than they are close to this one. So that is going to be creating that sort of issue on the formations. So I'm going to select this one back again, and I'm going to say unbind skeleton. And I'm going to do it again, but now this time I'm going to be using the geodesic voxel. So I'm going to go to skin, bind skin options, and choose my binding method from close distance to geodesic voxel. I'm going to keep the same influences here, and I'm going to take the resolution to 512. So it's going to take a little bit more time to bend than the other one. As you can see, it took a couple of seconds, but in a larger rig that is going to be way more noticeable. Now I'm going to take this joint here and I'm going to move it. It is still not perfect, but it's giving me a better result than what I had on the other one. So I still need to paint, even though I use these influences in a geodesic voxel, but it's not as terrible as it was before. And the most important part here is that now if I select this finger and move it down, no other parts are going to be coming. Remember, when you do the geodesic voxel, you're basically filling these with smaller cubes, and then it's going to be counting by cubes and not by distances. So that is it for this lesson. I will upload this model as is, so you can take a look at all of the individual movements if you want. But this is a way better looking result than what I had before. I'll see you in the next video.